Have you ever felt like you were stuck in a negativity cycle because of someone around you? Does anyone who drains your energy manipulates you or just doesn't respect you? If so, know that you are not alone. All of us at some point in life come across toxic people, whether at work, family, friends, or even in love relationships. These interactions can be exhausting, frustrating, and often make us powerless, not knowing how to react. The problem is that dealing with these situations can cause more than just momentary discomfort. Toxic people have the power to affect our mental health, lower our self-esteem, and even generate physical problems arising from constant emotional stress. But here is the good news. You don't have to be a victim of these dynamics. There are powerful tools that can help you face these situations with wisdom, calm, and assertiveness. In this video, we will explore 10 practical lessons of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that teaches how to deal with the adversities of life in a balanced way. From these lessons, you will learn to identify toxic behaviors before causing greater damage, develop emotional resilience, and gain mental clarity to act confidently without losing their calm or committing emotionally. Ready to transform the way toxic people deal. So let's start by understanding better what Stoicism is and why it can be so useful in the modern world. You may be wondering, what does Stoicism have to do with dealing with toxic people? The answer is simple: everything. Stoicism is an ancient philosophy that emerged in Greece and was widely practiced by historical figures such as Marco Aurelio, Seneca, and Epicteto. Although over 2,000 years, its principles are incredibly relevant to the challenges we face today. But what exactly is Stoicism? In a nutshell, it is a practical philosophy that teaches us how to focus on what we can control and not to shake what is out of our reach. Stoics believe that many of our anxieties come from trying to control things that are beyond us, such as the opinions of others or external events. Instead, they argued that we should focus on our own reactions, choices, and attitudes. In the context of dealing with toxic people, this perspective is especially powerful. When someone tries to manipulate us, devalue us, or unbalance us emotionally, Stoicism offers us tools to keep calm and make intelligent decisions. For example, imagine that a co-worker constantly criticizes his ideas at meetings. Instead of feeling defeated or reacting impulsively, you can apply the Stoic principle of controlling what you can control. That is, your own reaction. This not only preserves your mental peace, but it also allows you to respond assertively and strategically. In addition, Stoicism helps us see these situations more objectively. Often the toxic behavior of others reflects more on them than on us. By adopting this mindset, you break free from the need to take everything to the personal side and gain clarity to act wisely. Now that we better understand what Stoicism is and why it is so relevant to dealing with toxic people, let's explore the first practical lessons you can start applying today. Lesson 1. Control what you can control. One of the most fundamental ideas of Stoicism is the distinction between what is under our control and what is not. Epicteto, one of the great Stoic philosophers, summed up this brightly. It is not what happens to us that disturbs us, but our interpretation of what happens. In other words, we often suffer not for toxic behavior itself, but by the way we react to it. When we deal with toxic people, it is easy to fall into the trap of trying to change the other or control their actions. However, this is a lost battle before you even start. You can't change the way someone acts, but you can choose how to answer. For example, imagine that a co-worker constantly criticizes his ideas during meetings. Instead of being defeated or reacting angrily, you can decide to keep calm and respond assertively without letting criticism affect your self-esteem. This mindset not only helps you preserve your mental peace, but also puts you in control of the situation. By focusing on what you can control, your reactions, attitudes, and choices, you become immune to external provocations. Remember, you can't avoid storms, but you can learn to navigate them. As the Stoic saying goes, be the real stone in the midst of the waves. With this first lesson in mind, we will explore how to identify toxic behaviors before they cause greater damage. Lesson 2. Identify toxic behaviors before causing greater damage. Now that we understand the importance of controlling our reactions, is it time to step back and observe more clearly? How to identify toxic behaviors before they become a greater threat. Recognizing these signs early can save too much emotional suffering and even prevent you from getting involved in harmful dynamics. Toxic behaviors can manifest in many ways: subtle manipulation, lack of empathy, exaggerated selfishness, or even direct attacks on their self-esteem. A common example is that friend who only appears when needing something but disappears when you are facing difficulties. Or that coworker who always throws the blame on others to protect himself. These patterns may seem harmless at first, but over time they run their energy and confidence. Stoicism teaches us to observe these situations with objectivity, without letting ourselves be carried away by immediate emotion. When identifying toxic behavior, ask yourself, is this a reflection of the person or something about me? Often the answer will be clear, and it will help you decide how to act. Remember, consciousness is the first step to transformation. The sooner you notice these signs, the easier it will be to deal with them strategically. With this lesson in mind, we will explore why it is essential not to take these behaviors to the personal side. Lesson 3. Do not take it to the personal side. One of the biggest traps when dealing with toxic people is a tendency to internalize their behaviors and criticism. When someone acts negatively or disrespectfully, it is easy to interpret it as a reflection of who we are. However, this is a mistaken conclusion, and Stoicism helps us see it clearly. The toxic behavior of others reflects much more about them than about you. For example, imagine a boss who constantly devalues his contributions to meetings, minimizing his work. Instead of questioning your own skills, remember, this probably has more to do with this person's insecurities or limitations than with your competence. As Stoic people say, the opinions of others are just opinions, not absolute truths. By not taking these behaviors to the personal side, you protect yourself from unnecessary suffering and keep your self-esteem intact. This also allows you to respond rationally without being dominated by negative emotions. Remember, you are not responsible for the storms of others. Your energy must be directed to what really matters, its growth and well-being. With this lesson in mind, we will explore the importance of establishing clear limits on interactions with toxic people. Lesson 4. Establish clear limits. One of the most powerful tools for dealing with toxic people is the ability to set clear and firm limits. Limits are not only a way to protect your energy, but also an act of self-respect. When you communicate your borders in an assertive way, you are sending a clear message: this is my space, and it will be respected. However, many people hesitate to set limits on fear of conflict or guilt. A common example is when a friend or colleague makes abusive orders, how to demand their time out of work to solve problems that are not yours. Instead of giving in, practice saying no in a polite but firm way. For example, I understand that you are experiencing a difficult situation, but at the moment, I can't help with it. Stoics teach us what limits are essential for preserving our mental tranquility. By defining your borders, you protect yourself from being sucked into harmful dynamics and creates a healthier environment around you. Remember, boundaries are not barriers to others, but acts of self-esteem. They allow you to maintain balanced and sustainable relationships. With this lesson in mind, we will explore how to practice strategic empathy without internalizing the negativity of others. Lesson 5. Practice strategic empathy. Although setting boundaries is crucial, it is also important to develop a strategic understanding from the point of view of toxic people. This does not mean justifying or accepting their behaviors, but understanding the motivations behind them. Stoicism teaches us that often the actions of others reflect their own internal struggles, and this perspective can be liberating. For example, imagine a family member who acts aggressively or critically during conversations. Instead of reacting, impulsively ask yourself, what may be causing this behavior? Is this person dealing with stress, insecurity, or frustration? By practicing strategic empathy, you gain clarity about the situation without internalizing negativity. This allows you to respond more balanced, maintaining your mental peace intact. However, it is essential to remember that understanding does not mean accepting. You can recognize the difficulties of the other without allowing them to affect their own energy or well-being. As Stoic people would say, learn to see without being contaminated. With this lesson in mind, we will explore the importance of focusing on the present to avoid unnecessary ruminations. Lesson 6. Focus on the present. One of the most common traps when dealing with toxic people is a tendency to break the past or overly worry about the future. Maybe you are thinking of something someone said weeks ago, wondering if it could have reacted differently. Or perhaps it is anticipating future conflicts, creating unnecessary anxiety. Stoicism reminds us that the present moment is where life really happens, and it is in it that we should focus our attention. When you are stuck in thoughts about the past or the future, practice bringing your mind back to here and now. For example, during a discussion with a toxic colleague, instead of reviving old hurt or imagining catastrophic scenarios, focus only on what is being said at that time. Not only does this help you respond more rationally, but it also prevents small problems from turning into great conflicts. Stoics call this live according to nature, that is, accept things as they are in the present and act accordingly. By focusing on the now, you gain mental clarity and prevent the emotional weight of useless ruminations. Remember, the gift is where you have the power to act and where your inner peace lies. With this lesson in mind, we will explore how to develop emotional resilience to face adversities calmly and wisdom. Lesson 7. Develop emotional resilience. The ability to deal with adversity without emotionally shaken is one of the most valuable skills we can develop. And Stoicism is a powerful guide in this process. Emotional resilience does not mean ignoring or suppressing their feelings, but learning to manage them healthily, especially when we are facing toxic people. A practical technique to cultivate this resilience is to train your mind to remain calm in challenging situations. For example, imagine that you are in a meeting and someone makes a critical or disrespectful comment. Instead of reacting impulsively, take a deep breath and pause for a few seconds before responding. This moment of break may be sufficient to dissipate immediate emotion and allow you to choose an assertive and balanced response. Stoics often used mental exercises to strengthen their resilience, such as visualizing difficult scenarios before they occurred. In practicing this, you prepare yourself mentally to face challenges without being shaken. Remember, the force does not come from the absence of difficulties, but how you choose to deal with them. As Marco Aurelio wrote, the obstacle is the way. With this lesson in mind, we will explore how to choose your battles strategically, avoiding unnecessary conflicts. Lesson 8. Choose your battles. Not every discussion is worth it, and one of the most practical lessons of Stoicism is to learn to choose your battles wisely. When we deal with toxic people, it is easy to fall into the trap of wanting to overcome every confrontation or prove that you are right. However, this approach often generates more stress and friction without solving the real problem. Stoics teach us that in many cases, the best answer is simply not to answer. For example, imagine that a colleague make a negative or irrelevant comment during a meeting. Instead of getting involved in an unproductive discussion, evaluate if it is worth spending your energy right now. Sometimes silence or a brief and neutral answer are the best ways to disarm a potentially toxic situation. Choosing your battles also means prioritizing what really matters. If criticism or behavior does not directly affect your life or values, it may be better to pass. As the Stoic saying goes, sometimes winning is knowing when to stop. By adopting this mindset, you save energy to fight for the causes that really make a difference. With this lesson in mind, we will explore the importance of cultivating positive relationships that strengthen your emotional well-being. Lesson 9. Cultivate positive relationships. Just as it is important to learn to deal with toxic people, it is also essential to invest time and energy in relationships that raise and inspire you. Stoicism reminds us that the people around us have a direct impact on our mindset and behavior. As the popular saying goes, you are the average of the 5 people with whom you live most. Healthy relationships are those that promote mutual growth, respect, and emotional support. For example, think of a friend who always encourages you to seek your goals, or a co-worker who values your contributions and offers constructive feedback. These connections not only improve their quality of life, but also strengthen their emotional resilience to face external challenges. To apply this lesson, make an honest reflection on relationships in your life. Which of them energize you and which one drain you? Prioritize those who bring you peace and well-being, and set clear limits with people who constantly wear out. Remember, you have the power to choose with those who spend your time, and that can make all the difference in your personal journey. With this lesson in mind, we will explore the importance of accepting what cannot be changed, especially when it comes to toxic people who resist any transformation. Lesson 10. Accept what cannot change. One of the most difficult but liberating truths of Stoicism is the idea that some things simply cannot be changed, and that includes people. As much as you try to help or influence someone toxic to change your behavior, there are situations where this person is not willing or prepared to evolve. And that's fine. Accepting this is not defeat, it is an act of wisdom. For example, imagine a relative who constantly acts negatively or critically without any willingness to reflect on his own behaviors. Instead of spending energy trying to change it, accept that this person may never change and focus on how you can protect yourself emotionally. This may mean distancing yourself gradually or limit your interactions with it. Stoics teach us that acceptance is not passivity, but a way of recognizing reality as it is. By accepting what cannot be changed, you break free from constant frustration and gain mental space to focus on what really matters, your inner peace and personal growth. As an Epictet said, happiness begins when we stop blaming others. With this last lesson in mind, let's summarize everything we have learned so far with a practical checklist for you to apply these ideas in everyday life. We have reached the end of the 10 practical lessons of Stoicism to deal with toxic people. Now, to ensure that you can consistently apply these ideas, I have prepared a simple and straightforward checklist. Save this video or write down these points to revisit whenever necessary. Here is the summary. Control what you can control. Focus on your reactions and choices, not in the behavior of others. 2. Identify toxic behaviors before causing greater damage. Recognize signs such as manipulation, lack of empathy, and selfishness. Do not take it to the personal side. Remember that toxic behavior reflects more about the person than about you. 4. Establish clear limits. Say no without guilt and protect your emotional energy. Practice strategic empathy. Understand the perspective of the other without internalizing their negativity. Focus on the present. Avoid ruminations about the past or future concerns. 7. Develop emotional resilience. Train your mind to deal with adversity calmly and wisdom. Choose your battles. Not every discussion is worth it. Prioritize what really matters. Cultivate positive relationships. Invest time in people who support and inspire you. 10. Accept what cannot change. Free yourself from the need to change others and focus on what is under your control. These lessons are powerful because they can be applied gradually. It is not necessary to implement them all at once. Choose one lesson per week and practice it until it becomes a habit. Over time, you will notice a significant transformation in the way it deals with toxic people, and more importantly, in your own peace of mind. Remember, Stoicism is not just an old philosophy, but a practical tool to face modern challenges. By adopting these lessons, you will be equipped to browse the emotional storms with clarity, balance, and confidence. Now that you have this guide in hand, let's end with a final message and some suggestions to continue your personal growth journey.